and welcome back to End Times Prophecy News Update. This is Carrie Geren Scoggins. In the news this week, Obama has appointed a transgender to a position that he himself has created, that called the Faith Advisory Council. The name in and of itself implies state endorsement of religion. A state advisory council? To go into churches and faith-based organizations, to be a liaison between the church and the state, violating the separation of church and state to keep the state out of the church, stopping Bible censorship in attempts to bring in state-condoned religious tenets or to come in and condemn the religious tenets that the church already teaches.
We've had to continuously remind the Democratic Party and the leftists that the Constitution states Congress shall pass no law concerning the establishment of religion.
The separation of church and state is to keep the state out of the church, preventing Bible and religious censorship, change in doctrine, a state-approved religious tenet, or a state-approved Bible, or doctrine that the state allows the church to teach. That wall of separation of church and state was never intended to keep Christians or religious individuals out of state positions, but rather to stop the state from coming into religious organizations and bringing in a state-imposed belief system, state endorsement of religion. What else would be the job of a faith advisory council? Going into religious organizations and churches to advise them on what the state views as acceptable teachings and doctrines? How does this line up with the laws in the United States? Again, Obama has overstepped the boundaries of law here in the United States, violating the federal Supreme Court ruling of biblical core values. The biblical core values ruling, our legal right to adhere to biblical core values, and the federal Supreme Court even cited our legal right to adhere to Romans chapter 1 and scriptures that do not condone homosexuality. This in a nutshell, combined with the 1964 Civil Rights Act giving religion protected class status, the church's First Amendment rights, and keeping that wall of separation of church and state, preventing religious censorship or state-imposed doctrines, a state-accepted theology, and preventing religious discrimination over theological views that the church holds, such as that of Romans chapter 1, that the state cannot discriminate against any religious teaching, including the Christian church's teachings that homosexuality is the end result of having known God, left Him, went over into other religions, and then been given over to a reprobate mind. Romans 1:21, 1:25, and 1:28. This teaching is protected by not only the First Amendment, the biblical core values ruling, but as well that our legal right to proselytize upheld in the federal Supreme Court, so that we have the right to share this teaching.
The liberal leftist Democrats that support a New Age censored Bible need to remember that the Christians and Jews in Nazi Germany were arrested if they refused to burn their Bible or Torah at the Bible burnings held by the all gay Nazi brown shirts, of whom came to enforce the Nazi good speak laws, akin to our now overturned hate speech laws here in the United States and that in Europe and Canada. In the United States, the hate speech laws were overturned, upholding our legal right to debate the issues, citing specifically our legal right to debate homosexuality, Islam, and any issue from a biblical viewpoint from an uncensored Bible. ending the attempts to criminalize biblical teachings on homosexuality. Therefore, not replaying that of Nazi Germany here in the United States. Remember the adage, you are not a libertarian until you support the legal rights of those that you despise. That is, Christian civil rights.
Soon it will be time for the churches, religious organizations, and faith-based groups to begin to file suit against the state for violations of separation of church and state, where they have government coming into their churches and their groups, telling them what they can and cannot teach and what they do and do not have to accept. Remember the biblical core values ruling, our legal right to adhere to biblical core values. The Federal Supreme Court ruling protecting faith-based organizations from a state advisory council. And yet another attempt at state endorsement of religion. This has been another End Times Prophecy News Update. Carrie Geren Scoggins. Thank you for listening.